Hey, it's Andy, and it's Wednesday, June 23rd, and these are your top research articles for today. I hope you enjoyed the last couple of ones, especially the one on Minnesota. Got some feedback on that. It was interesting from someone in Canada saying that they would not come down to Minneapolis anytime soon because of all the social disruptions that were going on there. So just an interesting perspective. Hey, you can get all my research at andrewbush.com. Follow me on Twitter at ABUSCH. Okay, here's the top three articles. Two are on energy. One is on a port, believe it or not, or the global economy. So the first one is something that's really interesting. And I love S&P's research. They do a great job, and you can get it for free, which is always really nice. But it's talking about a Canadian company, oddly enough, Enbridge, issuing bonds that are ESG linked. Now, you can understand why they would have an environmental link to them, but the social and governance aspect of it is really interesting, and you can dive into that. Basically, what you see is that the issuance of bonds linked to some kind of ESG, environmental social governance component, have doubled in 2020 from 2019. They're up to about 700 billion bonds overall. Now, that's a tiny percentage overall of bond issuance, but the trend is pretty clear. You start doubling every year, and then some big things happen. So again, it's emblematic of where green financing is going, and really where, as I probably mentioned several times, the estimates are for ESG-related issuance or money, flowing into investment themes is going to top somewhere about $25 trillion by 2025. I mean, that's just mind-blowing, right? It's hard to get your head around that one. So with that in mind, the SEC this week, this is my second article, they come to this end of this comment period where they had asked people, the public, to comment on how to help them when it comes to creating a disclosure rules for companies on climate risk. Now, this is a really big deal because then companies are forced to go through the process of looking at climate. How does it impact their business? How does it impact their potential earnings and earnings going forward, which is really important for investors. So that's something that's happening. This was a change at the SEC in their March meeting that they had on whether or not they could actually go about this. It'll be interesting to see what the new chair of the SEC, Gary Gensler, thinks of this and whether he moves forward on it aggressively. I think they will. That's part and parcel of all of the Biden administration. Everyone has some serious skill sets when it comes to climate change. That's why they were picked. It is permeating through the entire administration. All you have to do is look at their personnel, and personnel is policy, right? So keep that in mind. So that's happening. It's a nice article there on that from Business Law Review. And then finally, it was, pretty hard shift here in the focus, but I saw something interesting about the Chinese port that had been shut down for about a month. The Yanqing International Container Terminal that had finally reopened, and that's great news for a number of reasons. It just handles so much cargo through not only China but also for other countries going in there. So that's great news for global economy. There's still a lot of chip shortages. There's still a lot of problems there. In China, there's a lot of chip shortages for new cars. I'm trying to remember if it was just for the United States, but ordering a new car, you used to be able to get it in a couple of weeks. Now it's months. And that's, again, it's emblematic of a lot of the problems that are happening within not only the global economy, but what's happening right here in the United States when you're trying to get products and goods and services. It's a challenge because the reopening has occurred a lot faster than what most people were anticipating. And so this is where you get these shortages. Just one more nugget of information on something like that is that American Airlines has been canceling flights because they didn't anticipate the surge in demand for revenge spending to some extent of people, booking flights in the return to normal. So they didn't have enough pilots. They weren't organized enough to have this happen. In fairness to them, that's like a crazy amount of flights. So they canceled 1% of their flights, which is a small amount, but it could cause a lot of problems for people in Charlotte or in Dallas, where the two big hubs are. Again, it's small, but if it continues to grow, that would be a problem. But this is a problem of the reopening. And I just would say I just booked 15 flights myself for what's happening in the fall with the conferences that I'm doing. So I think going forward, this is probably one of the last, this week is probably one of the last virtual events, solely virtual events that I'll do. I'm doing two, one for an energy company and one for Discover Card. So we'll see where it goes from there. Okay, that's a lot of information this morning. I know we're all gearing up for getting ready for the week before the 4th of July. So we'll see what happens. Things are going to slow down a little bit. And that's what we've seen in the markets as well. Okay, I'm Andy Bush. You can get all my research at andrewbush.com and follow me on Twitter at ABUSCH. Have a good Wednesday.